face recognition. Dear Mr. John Smith, President, dear Mr. Benoit Marchal, Secretary General of the Federation of International Musicians, FIM. My name is Rudolph Tang. I am a freelancing independent music journalist based in Shanghai. I had the pleasure of attending the FIM's IOC International Orchestra Conference in Amsterdam during my former employment with the China Symphony Development Foundation, CSDF, and AAPRO, Alliance of Asia Pacific Regional Orchestras, back in the old days. Well, I'm not so old anyway. I did grow up a lot. It's been a pleasure for me to be able to address the distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, coming from all over the world, gathering here now in Malmo, Sweden, a city I once visited just briefly on a day trip from Copenhagen years ago. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be there with you due to visa applications complexities. As I am a Chinese national, I'm required to have a visa, and there's a long queue, if I understand correctly, for Schengen states. But still, anyway, I am very happy to be here standing in the woods. Why the woods? Well, c'est la musique de la nature, isn't it? This is the nature's sound. To talk about the orchestra scene in mainland China in general, I'm very happy that China is aptly represented in the IOC conference this year by a gentleman from Hong Kong Chinese Orchestra, Mr. Chu. Maestro Chu is the Associate Artistic Director of the orchestra, one of the leading Chinese orchestras in the world that play a mixture of both Western and Chinese instruments, musical instruments. While Mr. Chu represents Hong Kong, which is China, I'm from mainland China. It's a vast country. According to statistics I did in 2019, just before the pandemic, there are at least 100 orchestras across China in this vast Chinese-speaking territory. And I think probably 95 of them are public funded, which means the orchestra receive a substantial amount of money from the government as subsidies, and the salaries of the musicians, the pension plan, and the instruments are covered extensively by the government funding. That makes the orchestra in China invulnerable to special circumstances like the pandemic. Although the orchestra, all of them were struck by the pandemic and a weak economy afterwards, but I'm really happy and proud that all of them, not necessarily the private ones, but all of the public funded ones, survived the pandemic, and they are thriving after the pandemic nowadays, giving performances at major venues, staging concerts, planning subscription seasons, and hiring international musicians and music directors. They are doing quite good. But that said, I still think that the orchestras in China are facing something challenging that is quite unique to this country. In a way, I mean, the country, the PRC, is built on the belief of collectivism, of collectiveness, of socialism, of that the people owns everything, including the orchestra infrastructure, the cultural industry. But there in China nowadays, something unique is happening. A privileged few of people, a small cluster of very influential musicians, notably conductors or music directors, are trying to privatize the orchestras through vertical integration, through business interests. So the conductors, the music directors, some of them are small, a handful of them are investing a lot into agencies, management companies, record companies, studios, educational training centers. And by those investments, they are primary dominant stakeholders of the music industry. As a music director, that gives them a comfortable position to hire, to engage musicians represented by the companies, agencies. that they are a stakeholder of. By engaging recording companies to live record, to stream their concerts from a service provided by a recording company that they are a stockholder, shareholder of, or by directing public resources to fund international exchange programs with overseas foreign-based orchestras, conservatories, music institutions, establishments for the benefit of their own. I think this is a very grave situation. This is everything 100% legit. At the same time, that constitutes a grave conflict of interest that I'm quite interested in exposing that to the international readers, you included. Being an independent music journalist, I'm exposing those things that I think are not right to me, to the international readers, through my vast web network of news outlets, including VAN, Musical America, Opera Wire, and a large number of best music journalism in China. I am among the first and only journalist exposing musicians when they took to the streets in China. I'm also among the first and only journalist exposing musicians boycotting their orchestra's management and directors in China, and that's very rare. I'm also the only one in China exposing the disband of a symphony orchestra, a private one, 3 months ago. Although it was saved, it was paid out by the government, finally, eventually, which is good for the orchestra. By saying that, I'm not a musician, but I'm part of you. I'm not an orchestra person. I used to be. I'm freelancing now, but I'm one of you. I would like to join you for the great cause, for the common good of music making, by exposing things that don't feel right for you and I don't feel right for me, to the vast, decent media and news outlets around the world. So by saying that, I would like to congratulate on the successful IOC International Orchestra Conference by FIM in Malmo, Sweden. Unfortunately, I'm not able to join you, but I wish you all the success. Thank you.